He was once the future of the gold and silver pawnshop heir to a Las Vegas empire watched by millions around the world. But behind the deals, the family name, and the fame of Pawn Stars, a silent shift was happening, one that would cost Corey Harrison his place as a co-owner. Today, we uncover the decisions, the family dynamics, and the surprising truth behind why Corey lost ownership and what it means for the future of the shop. Imagine inheriting a business empire built from dust and determination, only to watch it slip through your fingers like sand. For Corey Harrison, the son who grew up behind the counter of the most famous pawn shop in the world, that nightmare became reality. This is the story of how a family legacy, television fame, and silent business maneuvers changed everything. Picture this. Las Vegas, 1989. A young boy barely tall enough to see over the glass display cases walks into his grandfather's pawn shop. He's not there to play. He's there to work. That boy was Corey Harrison, and from the age of 9, the gold and silver pawn shop wasn't just a business. It was home. It was school. It was life. His grandfather, Richard Benjamin Harrison, known to the world as the Old Man, ran the shop with an iron fist and a calculator for a heart. Every transaction was a lesson. Every negotiation a test. And Corey? He was the eager student, soaking it all in. While other kids were playing video games, Corey was learning how to spot a fake Rolex. From across the room, then came 2003. A production company walked through those doors with an idea that seemed almost too good to be true. They wanted to film a reality show about the pawn shop. Richard was skeptical. Rick, Corey's father, saw opportunity. And Corey? He was just excited to be part of something bigger. In 2009, Pawn Stars premiered on the History Channel, and everything changed overnight. The show wasn't just popular. It was a cultural phenomenon. Suddenly, this dusty little pawn shop in downtown Las Vegas became a pilgrimage site. Tourists lined up around the block just to step inside. Celebrities stopped by. The merchandise started flying off the shelves faster than they could restock it. The gold and silver pawn shop went from making a comfortable living to becoming a multi-million-dollar empire. Corey wasn't just the grandson anymore. He was Big Hoss, a television personality recognized on every street corner. He appeared in over 700 episodes. He became the face of a new generation taking over the family business. The cameras loved him. America loved him. And with that fame came something else, expectations. But here's where the story takes a turn most people don't know about. Behind the scenes, while the cameras captured the jokes and the deals, a different kind of negotiation was happening. One that didn't involve rare coins or vintage motorcycles. One that would determine who really owned the gold and silver pawn shop. You see, when Pawn Stars launched, the business structure was simple. Richard the Old Man Harrison owned the majority of the company. Rick Harrison, Corey's father, held his portion. And Corey, he was working his way up, promised that one day it would all be his. But television fame brings something dangerous into family businesses. Money? Lots of it. And with money comes tension. As the show exploded, so did the revenue streams. Merchandising deals, appearance fees, licensing agreements. The gold and silver pawn shop wasn't just a pawn shop anymore. It was a brand. And brands need protection. They need legal structures. They need corporations and LLCs and partnership agreements written in language that would make your head spin. Corey believed he was building his future. He showed up every single day. He made the deals. He smiled for the cameras. He signed autographs until his hand cramped. In his mind, he was securing his inheritance, brick by brick, episode by episode. Then, June 2018, everything shattered. Richard the Old Man Harrison passed away at the age of 77. The patriarch was gone. And with his death came a revelation that would rock Corey's world. The will was read. The ownership papers were reviewed. And Corey discovered something that felt like a betrayal carved in legal ink. He had been written out, not entirely, but enough to sting. Enough to change everything he thought he knew about his place in the family empire. The old man had left his share of the business to Rick, Corey's father. Not to Corey, the young man who had spent his entire life in that shop. Who had sacrificed his childhood, his teenage years, his 20s. Building what he thought was his legacy, found himself on the outside looking in. Rick Harrison now controlled the majority of the gold and silver pawn shop. And while Corey still worked there, still appeared on the show, still wore the title of manager ownership, was a different conversation. Imagine that moment. Imagine realizing that the empire you helped build, the business you bled for, doesn't really belong to you. Not in the way you thought it did, but the story doesn't end there. Because Corey isn't the type to just accept defeat, reports started surfacing that Corey and Rick's relationship had become strained. Tense, the cameras still rolled. And they still smiled for the audience, but behind closed doors, conversations about ownership, control, and the future of the business were getting heated. Corey wanted what he felt he deserved. A real stake. Real ownership. Not just a paycheck and a manager's title. He'd given his entire life to this business. He'd made it famous. And he wanted his piece of the pie. Rick, on the other hand, saw things differently. He was the one who took the risk on the TV show. He was the one who managed the business side while Corey was still learning. In Rick's mind, Corey would get his turn eventually. But on Rick's timeline, not Corey's. And here's where it gets complicated. Because family businesses are never just about business. They're about pride. About legacy. About fathers and sons and expectations that were set decades ago. Over a cluttered counter in a Las Vegas pawn shop, the tension spilled into the public eye. Corey made comments in interviews about wanting more control, about feeling undervalued, about the sacrifices he made that seemed to go unrecognized. Fans started taking sides. Some sympathized with Corey, the young man who'd given everything. Others sided with Rick, the businessman who built the empire and had every right to run it his way. Then came the legal moves. Quiet ones at first. Corey started making business decisions outside the pawn shop. He opened his own ventures. He invested in other projects. He started building something that was his and his alone. Because if the family business wouldn't give him ownership, he'd create his own empire. But the gold and silver pawn shop, that stayed firmly in Rick's hands. As of today, Corey Harrison still appears on Pawn Stars. He still works at the shop. He still makes the deals and greets the customers and signs the autographs. But the ownership he dreamed of, that remains elusive. Some say it's a cautionary tale about family businesses. About the importance of putting agreements in writing. About making sure everyone's on the same page before the money and fame roll in. Others say it's just the way these things go. That fathers hold on to control longer than sons would like. That legacy is something earned, not given. But for Corey Harrison, it's personal. It's his life. His childhood. His entire identity wrapped up in a business that bears his family name, but doesn't fully belong to him. And maybe that's the real lesson here. That fame and fortune don't guarantee ownership. That family ties can be both the strongest bonds and the most complicated chains. That sometimes the people we love the most are the ones who hold the keys to the kingdoms we can't enter. So the next time you see Corey Harrison on your screen, making a deal, cracking a joke, living the dream that millions of viewers tune in to watch, remember this. Remember that behind the cameras and the smiles, there's a man still fighting for what he believes is rightfully his, still navigating the complex maze of family, business, and legacy. Because in the end, the real pawn in this story might just be the boy, who grew up believing the shop would one day be his. If this story opened your eyes to what really goes on behind the scenes, drop a comment below and let us know your thoughts. And if you're hungry for more untold stories like this, hit that subscribe button. We're just getting started.